There's
The
another
emphasis.
syllable.
Emphasis.
It's an example of putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Are you saying plural emphases?
Oh, it could be.
It would have to be.
I think you're right.
Mm,
Are you a linguist too?
Absolutely not.
nice.
You should try it. It's kind of fun, actually. Last night I was reading Harry Potter in French,
Oh.
which was fun. I'm on the Goblet of Fire in my French reading. All right, it's back to this. This is called work. I'm not supposed to just take a smoke break for two reasons. One, I'm not supposed to get paid for a break in class. And two, I don't smoke. I never have. Yani Koryu, I don't smoke. Because I couldn't inhale, I guess,
Where you're smart.
which is a President Clinton joke. So existential instantiation, EI, you can just go from an existential statement to a particular individual. I'll pick a constant or no specific individual. And here's an example. I can go from there exists an X such that X is mortal, or in this case, there exists a man, and we can infer MC for some specific individual C, meaning there is a specific individual C who is a man. And then remember, there are the constant C must be new to the context. You can't pick somebody that's actually already involved in the argument, or otherwise you can end up at the end concluding that that specific individual is and that's how you get people convicted who are not, guilty. So don't do that in a law case. Somebody was in this room and killed him, and they were about this tall. Hey, you're that tall. You must be that person. No, that's you just had a fallacious argument there because there's a restriction on this rule. Yes, we are talking about specific symbolic systems, but it actually has relevance to actual practice when we're talking about our everyday speech. So you might think, gee, who needs this stuff? Studying this stuff actually helps you understand the kinds of mistakes we can make in everyday speech if we're not paying close enough attention to what our language implies and the restrictions that we ought to hold that language to, right? And then the last one, there's two types, right? Universal quantifiers and existential quantifiers, or particular quantifiers. And so you have instantiation rules that enable you to instantiate, to get rid of the quantifier, and then generalization rules, which enable you to put the quantifier back if the conclusion requires it. And so existential generalization, which has the most restrictions of all of them, allows you to put a existential quantifier back over a particular instance, to go from this particular instance to some in general. And remember, you have to be careful not to convict a particular individual in that case. So that's something that I wanted to cover, and you got the summary of the four rules. It's very nice of ChatGPT to do that. So you've got universal instantiation, how it looks. And by the way, this also works when you're feeding the computer. Whenever you see this, you can use that. That's you're telling the computer when this is the case and this is the case, etc. So there's a nice summary of those four instantiation rules, which you will find in any good logic book or on ChatGPT if you ask for it. Kind of neat. Okay. get out of Chat GPT and hopefully get back. Aha, nicely done. Because what I want to do is, let me see if I can go further back. Okay, so this was where we started talking about the quiz question from last class, right? How do you put that into symbols? And notice how I ended up giving you my thought on how you would have this for anything you pick. If it's a person, then it's not in the room. It means no one's in the room, but what you need to say is no one else is in the room, et cetera, et cetera. So altogether, I ended up with, because I also wanted to say that Y is not X. So the speaker who's saying no one else is in the room is obviously a person and not included in the no one else that's in the room, right? So you have to say, you could put it either way, right? Whichever is first. There exists a Y such that for all X, Y is a person and in the room, and if there's a person X, then they're not in the room. And by the way, it's not the case that Y is identical to X. And usually you could put that either way, Y X or XY. XY usually feels better because of the random alphabetical order we've grown up with. You could memorize the alphabet in reverse. Or I don't think a computer knows the alphabet in order.
I thought it was vaguely most used letters to least used letters.
That's the QWERTY keyboard.
Which I guess is the case.
And my understanding is the QWERTY keyboard was invented because early typewriters, once secretaries who were women started typing very quickly, they frequently ended up with the things stuck because they're typing so fast that the mechanical
the
arms would get tangled, and then you have to. And so they created the QWERTY keyboard deliberately so that you had to type slower. And because everybody got used to that, because you're trained to touch type in some classes and so on, we still use the QWERTY keyboard even though it actually slows you down. And now we don't need it to slow us down because we want to type faster.
I'd actually, if I can say something.
Please do.
That is a myth.
Shoot.
The QWERTY keyboard is made with express purpose to have keys that are pressed frequently farther apart, because when you have a typewriter, it's a bunch of these little arms that are all going on the paper. So if E and A were right next to each other, both the E and A keys would go right down and get tangled. So the express purpose isn't to slow the writer down, it's so they're not having the same keys pressed at the same time.
Okay.
You fact checked.
Nice.
Oh yeah,
Fact
yeah,
check.
yeah. Although I'm sitting here thinking, "Oh, but that's sort of what I said, isn't
It
it?
is, but the purpose was different.
But the purpose is different. Okay.
But like, back in the day, a fast typist was a really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a job skill.
Yeah, yeah. They still do say in your
Yeah, it's still a
your qualifications, so many words per minute, etc. What's neat today, of course, is you can say, Siri, take a letter, and just speak, and Siri writes the whole thing
You're
for you.
activating Siri.
Pardon?
You're activating my Siri.
My phone.
I'm
too.
sorry, I shouldn't have said that word.
Well, Oh, I didn't think it. Have you guys ever written a paper, speech to text?
No, I hate it.
Yeah, I
tried
remember-
it, but I don't like it.
Dang, I'm gonna try that. I didn't even think of doing that.
I worked with the people that invented Dragon Speak.
Oh, that's what I tried.
It was, I was at the NSA. I was doing a very boring job of translating from German to Russian, formatted traffic. So it was just routine, boring. And so after a while, 3 years, I talked with the guys that worked on the Cray, and I said, can't we get the computer to do this? And it took about 6 months. And they figured it out so that I was just checking the computer's work to make sure that it had done a good job. And then I was out of a job.
That works.
Yeah, big mistake.
No, they gave me another job.
Oh, okay.
So that was okay. Then I came to Fort Richardson, which was really, really good and really, really, well, it was the toughest job I ever had in the Army because it was cold
Mm.
most of the time. Okay, so that's how I ended up with my conclusion. But I noticed several of you sent me other examples, especially a lot using more parentheses and so on, because there's different fonts, there's different ways that these symbols are represented today. I thought about asking ChatGPT, how many different kinds of computer languages are there? And I thought, I don't want to break the machine. So I didn't do that. Okay, I can't go back again. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing this. And then I'm going to go back to my meeting. And I'm going to share a different screen because I had already put it up. And I hope I can, I think it's this one. Nope, maybe it's this one. Nope, let's go to this one. Not this one. No. All right, let's go back to here. We'll go share. And I'm going to go to Logic Test 2. So I guess this is kind of important because what I noticed on the syllabus is not this Saturday, but next Saturday, I think October 19th maybe, whatever the next Saturday is, I have a test 2 due. So basically from now till then, please have a look at this. Here's the questions. And you know, I know in most logic courses, at least some of the tests ought to be on doing proofs and things of that sort. And since I've already started with the idea that all my tests will be essay question type tests, that really doesn't work for that. I mean, really in class, what I used to do is test 2 and test 3. Test 2 would be on Aristotelian syllogisms. I would, give out something called paper. And people would sit in class and do syllogisms, and deal with various issues associated with syllogisms, and then turn the paper in and then leave, usually. And I would take that paper home and grade it. In fact, I have like a little podium at home where I would sit the papers there, and what I would do is I would grade all of question 1, all of question 2, I would just keep going through it that way so I could get them through real fast. You imagine doing 34 logic papers
In syllogism.
and standing there, for the whole thing. It's a bit of a burden, whereas if you send me essays, I look at it and I count 900 words, A for you, And then I read them, and say, oh, this is in English, and so on. Because yes, you could use other languages. I could always just run it through Google Translate if it isn't something that I recognize, which is fine. Right? This is modern day, right? So the second test of that sort would be, proofs. If P, then Q, P, therefore, et cetera, et cetera. And then the fourth and final one are questions